15 coworkers just finished reading 190 reasons why I don't belong at the company where I've worked for 8 years. Reason 47, leaves exactly at 5:30 p.m. to pick up kids from school. Reason 90, never asks for help with technical problems. Reason 150, brings lunch from home instead of ordering with the team. While they're all staring at me waiting for me to break down, I pulled out my phone and made the call that changed everything. My name is Howard Pierce. I'm 47 years old, and what I'm about to tell you will either make you feel understood or make you realize you need to start protecting yourself immediately. Let me back up. 3 days before that meeting, I got the most important phone call of my career. But to understand why that call mattered, I need to tell you how I ended up in that conference room in the first place. 8 years ago, I started working at Midwest Industrial Solutions as a senior sales engineer. Basically, I solved technical problems for manufacturing clients and kept them happy. From day one, I noticed something that would define my entire experience there. The company was held together with duct tape and hope. Their biggest client, Oakwood Manufacturing, was about to walk because their production reports were always late and full of mistakes. I watched my supervisor, Brad Peterson, scramble for days trying to fix it. So I stayed late, found the real problem in their system, and left a solution on his desk with a note, "This might help." Brad presented my solution the next morning like he invented it himself. The client stayed. Brad got promoted. That became my life for 8 years. I fixed problems that didn't officially exist and watched my fingerprints disappear from every success story. When the computer system crashed during a major presentation, I rebuilt everything from backup files at home while everyone else panicked. When clients demanded impossible deadlines, I redesigned our entire workflow to make it work. But I made one huge mistake. I thought excellence spoke for itself. I thought solving problems was enough. I thought being reliable meant being valuable. Wrong on all counts. While I was keeping their business alive, my colleagues were building something else, a case against me. It started small. Comments about how I didn't participate in office culture. When I focused on work instead of weekend chat, someone would say I was antisocial. When I ate lunch at my desk to catch up on projects, they called me not a team player. Brad started scheduling important meetings during my lunch break, then acting surprised when I needed updates. Derek Walsh, our project manager, began giving me impossible deadlines, then expressing disappointment when I worked late to hit them. Preston Wells, a new hire, made jokes about how I probably lived at the office. The real turning point came 6 months ago. I was finishing the annual efficiency report for Oakwood when my phone rang. "Howard, this is Jim Rodriguez from Rodriguez Industrial Consulting. We've been watching your work for quite some time. Would you be interested in discussing a partnership opportunity?" Jim Rodriguez? Every person in our industry knew that name. Former plant manager turned consultant, the guy who somehow stayed one step ahead of us on every proposal. Jim explained he'd been tracking success patterns at Midwest Industrial for over a year. Every major win, every kept client, every solution had one thing in common: my work. He wasn't trying to poach a random employee. He wanted to partner with the person actually driving success at his biggest competitor. The offer was incredible. Equal partnership, $180K startup capital, my own office, and something I'd never had at Midwest Industrial, recognition for what I actually did. I told Jim I needed time to think. I wasn't ready to abandon the company where I'd invested 8 years. Loyalty meant something to me even when it wasn't returned. That loyalty was about to get tested in ways I never imagined. Over the next few weeks, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations stopped when I walked into rooms. People excluded me from lunch plans I'd never been invited to anyway, but now they made sure I knew about it. Derek started assigning me tasks designed to make me fail. Then Brad called me into his office for what he called a routine performance discussion. He had a legal pad covered in notes. "Several team members have expressed concerns about your fit with company culture," he said. "What specific concerns?" He read from his notes like a script. "You don't engage with colleagues personally. You don't participate in team building. Some people feel like you think you're better than everyone else. I complete every assignment early. I've saved us 3 major clients. I work more hours than anyone in this department. Work performance and team dynamics are different things. Howard, this is collaborative. We need people who work well with others." The irony was ridiculous. I was the only one actually collaborating. When Preston needed help with client requirements, I spent hours teaching him. When Derek's presentations fell apart, I quietly fixed them. When Brad's strategies failed, I found alternatives and let him take credit. But apparently collaboration meant laughing at jokes I didn't find funny and pretending to care about TV shows I didn't watch. 2 weeks later, Jim called again. Rodriguez Industrial had just won another major contract, beating us by proposing exactly the kind of approach I'd been suggesting for months. "We're prepared to increase the partnership terms," he said. "Howard, we need someone with your skills." We have 7 major clients asking specifically for the analysis you're known for. Known for? Your reputation is bigger than you realize. When companies need real solutions instead of presentations, they ask for you by name. They just don't know your current employer doesn't value what you bring. That conversation stuck with me for days. I started noticing things I'd ignored. When clients called asking for help, the receptionist transferred them straight to my line. When other firms tried recruiting our staff, they mentioned wanting to understand how Midwest Industrial got such consistent results. I was the consistent results. I was why clients stayed. I was the secret ingredient everyone else took credit for. But I still wasn't ready to leave. Something in me believed loyalty and hard work would eventually be recognized. I thought if I kept proving my value, people would finally see it. I was about to learn exactly how much they valued me. The meeting was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon. Brad sent an email to the entire team. Mandatory staff meeting to discuss team performance and collaboration improvement strategies. Nothing unusual. We had these every few months. I walked into the conference room expecting another lecture about synergy. Instead, I found 19 of my colleagues sitting around the table with printed documents in front of them. Brad stood at the front with Derek beside him, both wearing expressions I'd never seen before. "Howard, please have a seat," Brad said, pointing to a single chair facing everyone else. That's when I saw the banner someone hung behind Brad's head. Team Improvement Initiative, building a better workplace together. Derek cleared his throat and lifted a thick stack of papers. Over the past several weeks, team members have been documenting specific behaviors that impact our collaborative work environment. We've compiled these into a comprehensive list we'd like to share with you. My brain struggled to process what was happening. A list? 19 specific reasons why your current approach to teamwork needs significant adjustment, Brad explained. We're going to read through each item so you understand exactly how your behavior affects your colleagues. The room went dead silent except for the air conditioning hum. 19 pairs of eyes stared at me. This wasn't a performance review or team-building exercise. This was a coordinated attack disguised as feedback. Derek began reading. Number 1. Arrives at work before anyone else, making colleagues feel guilty about their schedule. Number 2. Never joins conversations about weekend plans or personal life. Number 3. Eats lunch at desk instead of socializing with team. Number 4. Completes assignments too quickly, making others feel inadequate. Number 5. Offers solutions without being asked, implying others are incompetent. He kept reading and reading and reading. For 2 solid hours, I sat there listening to every quirk, every habit, every personality trait that made me who I was, being torn apart by people I'd helped, people I'd covered for, people whose mistakes I'd quietly fixed dozens of times. Number 38, never laughs at Brad's jokes during meetings. Number 59, prefers email over face-to-face conversation. Number 73, doesn't own a smart TV, making it impossible to discuss popular shows. Number 112, brings homemade coffee instead of buying from the office machine. Number 147, knows too much about client needs, making others feel uninformed. Number 168, stays late to finish projects, creating unrealistic expectations for others. Number 185, remembers details from meetings that others forgot. As Derek read each item, something inside me clicked into place. Not breaking down, not crumbling, clicking into place. Every word made me more certain of something I'd been avoiding for months. These people didn't want me to improve, they wanted me gone. When Derek finally reached number 190, minus mechanical sounds while thinking through problems, the room fell silent again. Everyone stared at me, waiting for my response, waiting for tears, arguments, apologies, or resignation. Instead, I stood up, straightened my shirt collar, and said, "Thanks for the honest feedback." Then I pulled out my phone and made the call that changed everything. "Jim, this is Howard Pierce. I'm ready to accept your partnership offer. Yes, the $180K startup capital works perfectly. When would you like me to start?" The silence in that conference room was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. 19 people who had just spent 2 hours explaining why I didn't belong there suddenly looked like they were watching their own execution. Brad's face went through about 7 different expressions in 5 seconds. Derek dropped his stack of papers. Preston's mouth fell open. "I can start Monday." I continued into the phone, never taking my eyes off Brad. "And yes, I understand you'd like me to bring my client relationships with me. I think that can be arranged." I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my pocket. The room stayed frozen. "Well," I said, picking up my notebook from the table, "I appreciate you taking the time to help me understand why I'm not a good fit here. It's made my decision much easier." Brad finally found his voice. "Howard, let's not be hasty. This was constructive feedback." Constructive feedback? Not a coordinated effort to humiliate me into quitting. not a 2-hour character assassination disguised as team building. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. You know what's funny? In 8 years here, not one of you ever asked me why I work the way I do. Why I arrive early, why I stay late, why I focus on solutions instead of socializing. I look directly at Derek. You want to know why I don't laugh at Brad's jokes? Because while he's making jokes, I'm usually thinking about how to fix whatever crisis he created that morning. You want to know why I eat lunch at my desk? Because that's when our West Coast clients call and someone needs to be available to help them. Then I looked at Brad. And you want to know why I complete assignments so quickly? Because I actually understand what our clients need, and I've been doing work that 3 other people should be doing. I reached for the door handle. Enjoy explaining to your clients why their trusted contact won't be available anymore. I'm sure they'll understand. The next morning, I cleaned out my desk before anyone arrived. As I packed my personal items, I found something that made me pause. In my filing cabinet were folders for every major client we'd worked with over the past 8 years. Not official company files, but my own notes. Dedicated records of every conversation, every preference, every concern, every solution I'd provided. Relationship maps showing who made decisions, who influenced those decisions, and what mattered most to each organization. I'd kept these because I genuinely cared about doing good work, but looking at them now, I realized they represented something much more valuable. They represented 8 years of trust and problem solving that belonged to me, not to Midwest Industrial. My phone buzzed with a text from Jim. Welcome to Rodriguez Industrial Consulting. Can we schedule a call to discuss your transition plan? I photographed every page in those folders before leaving the building. The weekend between my last day at Midwest and my first day as Jim's partner was strange. I kept expecting to feel guilty about leaving or nervous about starting over. Instead, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Excitement about going to work. Jim met me at our new office on Monday morning. We'd rented space in a converted warehouse. Nothing fancy, but perfect for our needs. Before we started setting up, Jim said something I'll never forget. Howard, I want you to understand something. We didn't start this partnership so you could be another employee. We started it so you could be exactly who you already are. The person who solves problems nobody else can solve. The person who builds relationships that last decades. He handed me a folder marked Client Transition Opportunities. These are companies that have expressed interest in working with Rodriguez Industrial, but only if we can demonstrate the same level of service they've grown accustomed to elsewhere. I think you'll recognize most of the names. I opened the folder and my heart started racing. Every major client from Midwest Industrial was listed. Not just listed, but detailed with specific notes about their current frustrations, contract renewal dates, and decision timelines. How did you get this? We didn't steal anything. These companies reached out to us. Apparently, there's been concern in the industry about service quality at certain firms. Companies are quietly exploring alternatives. My phone started ringing before I finished reading the folder. Howard, this is Barry Hudson from Oakwood Manufacturing. I heard you'd moved to Rodriguez Industrial. We've been having some issues with our current consulting firm, and I was wondering if we could schedule a meeting to discuss transitioning our account. Oakwood Manufacturing, Midwest Industrial's biggest client. I'd been working with Barry for 6 years. I'd be happy to meet with you, Barry. How does Thursday afternoon work? 3 more calls came in before lunch. All from companies that had been working with Midwest Industrial, all asking about switching to Rodriguez Industrial, all mentioning my name specifically as the reason they were interested. By the end of my first week, I had meetings scheduled with 7 of Midwest's major clients. Not because I'd solicited them, not because we'd pursued them aggressively, but because these companies had been quietly unhappy for months and were just waiting for an alternative they could trust. It turns out when you're the person actually solving problems and building relationships, people notice. They notice when their calls get returned promptly. They notice when their concerns get addressed thoroughly. They notice when solutions actually work. And they definitely notice when that person suddenly becomes unavailable. Brad called me Thursday afternoon just as I was heading into my meeting with Oakwood. Howard, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Several of our clients are asking about you, and I wanted to clarify that you're still bound by your non-compete agreement. I almost laughed. Brad, you might want to have your legal team review my employment contract. I signed a non-disclosure about internal processes. I never signed a non-compete. Your company doesn't offer those to senior engineer-level employees. Silence on the other end. Besides, I'm not soliciting your clients. They're soliciting me. There's a significant difference. Look, maybe we can work something out. What would it take to get you to come back? We could discuss a promotion, maybe a significant raise. Brad, 2 weeks ago, you facilitated a meeting where 19 people spent 2 hours explaining why I shouldn't work there. I'm going to assume you meant what you said. I ended the call and walked into my meeting with Oakwood. Barry looked exactly like I'd expected based on our phone conversations over the past 6 years. Mid-50s, practical clothes, the kind of guy who valued efficiency over everything else. Howard, I'll be direct. Working with Midwest Industrial has become frustrating. Our account manager doesn't understand our industry. Our reports are consistently late, and when we have problems, it takes days to get answers. But every time we called you directly, everything got resolved immediately. He slid a contract across the table. We want to work with you, not with your former employer. Can Rodriguez Industrial handle our account? The contract was worth $1.2 million annually. Oakwood's entire consulting budget, and they were offering to transfer it completely to Rodriguez Industrial. We can absolutely handle your account, Barry. When would you like to start the transition? Immediately. We've already notified Midwest Industrial that we won't be renewing our contract when it expires next month. That meeting lasted 2 hours. By the time I returned to our office, I had 4 voicemail messages from other Midwest clients wanting to schedule similar meetings. Brad called again that evening. Howard, we need to talk. Oakwood just terminated their contract. Steelworks Logistics is refusing to renew. Northwood Holdings wants to cancel their project midstream. What exactly are you telling these people? I'm not telling them anything, Brad. I'm listening to them. Apparently, that's something they haven't experienced much lately. This is corporate sabotage. We're going to have to involve our legal team. Feel free. I'm sure they'll be very interested to learn that you're claiming ownership of client relationships built by an employee you just spent 2 hours explaining doesn't belong at your company. The legal threat never materialized. Probably because their lawyers explained the same thing Jim had explained to me. Client relationships belong to the person who built them, not to the company that employed that person. Over the next 6 months, 7 major clients representing 65% of Midwest Industrial's annual revenue chose not to renew their contracts. Not because I convinced them to leave, but because they'd been unhappy for months and finally had an alternative they could trust. Jim and I were busy building something neither of us had expected. Our partnership was growing faster than we'd planned. We hired our first employee in month 3, our 5th by month 6. These weren't random hires. They were people who understood that excellence actually mattered, that client relationships were built on trust and results, not office politics. I started driving past Midwest Industrial's building on my way to work. The parking lot got emptier each month. Now hiring signs appeared in their windows. Through industry contacts, I learned they'd had to lay off 8 people and downsize their office space. Brad was no longer the department manager. Direct left the company 4 months after I did. Preston Wells was one of the people laid off. My phone rang one evening while I was helping my son Jason with his college applications. It was Barry from Oakwood. Howard, I wanted you to know something. Our efficiency is up 23% since we started working with Rodriguez Industrial. You've saved us more money in 6 months than Midwest Industrial did in 2 years. My plant managers are asking if we can extend our contract early. After I hung up, Jason looked at me and said, Dad, you seem different since you started your own business. Different how? Happier, I guess. Like you actually want to go to work. He was right. For the first time in 8 years, I was excited about Monday mornings. A year later, Rodriguez Industrial Consulting employed 23 people, the same number who sat in that conference room listening to my character assassination. But these 23 people came to work excited about solving problems, building relationships, and creating value for clients who appreciated what we did. Every morning when I arrive at work, I see our company sign. Rodriguez Industrial Consulting, Howard Pierce, partner, my name on the sign. After 8 years of invisible work, my name was finally visible, but the best part isn't the money or the recognition. The best part is what my kids see. Jason's a senior now, applying to engineering programs, and he tells his friends his dad runs a business based on integrity and hard work. Amy's a sophomore already talking about business management, and she sees that loyalty and competence actually do matter in the real world. Last month, I got invited to speak at the National Manufacturing Association conference. The topic was building client relationships that last. As I stood at that podium, looking out at 300 industry professionals, I thought about that conference room where 19 people spent 2 hours explaining why I didn't belong. They were right about one thing. I didn't belong there, I belonged somewhere that valued what I brought to the table. Jim and I just signed our biggest contract yet, a 3-year deal with a Fortune 500 manufacturing company worth $4.2 million. They specifically requested our firm because of our reputation for solving problems other consultants couldn't handle. When I told the client about our approach, he said something that stuck with me. Finally, someone who focuses on solutions instead of presentations. Last week, I drove past Midwest Industrial's building. There's a for-lease sign in the window. According to industry sources, they couldn't recover from losing their major clients. The building's been empty for 3 months. I don't feel bad about that. I feel something else entirely, validation that excellence actually does speak for itself when it's given the right platform. Preston Wells, that new hire who used to joke about me living at the office, reached out on LinkedIn last month. He's been unemployed for 6 months since Midwest Industrial folded. He asked if we had any openings. I told him to send his resume and we'd consider it. Not because I hold grudges, but because everyone deserves a chance to prove they've learned something. Derek Walsh found work at another consulting firm, but word in the industry is that he's struggling. Apparently, when you spend years taking credit for other people's work, it's hard to produce results when you're on your own. Brad Peterson's still looking for work. I heard through mutual contacts that potential employers keep asking about his management style and why Midwest Industrial lost so many major clients under his leadership. Turns out reputation matters in this business. But here's what really matters. 6 months ago, Barry Hudson from Oakwood Manufacturing called with news that made everything worthwhile. "Howard, I wanted you to know something. That efficiency improvement you implemented. We just had our best quarter in company history. We're so impressed that we're recommending Rodriguez Industrial to 3 other plants in our network. This is the kind of partnership we've been looking for our entire business." That call reminded me why I do this work. It's not about revenge or proving people wrong. It's about solving real problems for real people who appreciate real solutions. My daughter Amy asked me recently if I ever regret leaving Midwest Industrial. I told her the truth. I regret not leaving sooner. Every month I stayed there was another month I wasn't building something meaningful. The company we've built employs 23 people who support their families through work that matters. We've helped our clients save millions of dollars in operational costs. We've prevented plant closures that would have cost hundreds of jobs. We've proven that doing excellent work and treating people right isn't just good business. It's the only sustainable way to build something that lasts. 3 weeks ago, a young engineer named Sarah Martinez joined our team. She's 28, brilliant, and reminds me of myself at that age, someone who believes hard work and competence should be enough. I pulled her aside after her first week and told her something I wish someone had told me years ago. Excellence is important, but visibility matters too. Don't let people take credit for your work. Document your contributions. Make sure the right people know what you're bringing to the table. She nodded like she understood, and I hope she does, because talent without advocacy is just invisible excellence waiting for the right platform. The conference room where it all happened, I drove past it last week. The building's been converted into a fitness center. Somehow that seems appropriate, people going there to build strength instead of tear it down. Sometimes I wonder what my former colleagues think when they see our success in industry publications. Do they understand that they created the situation that forced their best clients to choose between loyalty to a company and loyalty to the person who actually served them? Do they realize that their 190 reasons were really 190 reasons why I should have left years earlier? I don't know, and honestly, I don't spend much time thinking about it anymore. I'm too busy building something meaningful with people who understand that excellence and integrity aren't character flaws. They're the foundation of everything worth building. So here's what I want you to take from my story. If you're the person who makes everything work while everyone else takes credit, start documenting your contributions. If you're the person who solves problems nobody else can solve, start making sure people know you're the one solving them. And if you're the person giving loyalty to people who don't deserve it, start giving that loyalty to yourself instead, because the people who undervalue you are counting on you to undervalue yourself. They're counting on you to stay quiet, stay invisible, and keep fixing their mistakes without demanding recognition. Don't give them that satisfaction. The best revenge isn't destroying the people who underestimated you. The best revenge is proving them wrong by building something they could never imagine. Something with your name on the sign, something that matters.